award. She started the 1954 season poorly, tying for 14th place in the Sea Island Open, placing 7th in the Tampa Women's Open, then losing a sudden death playoff to Beverly Hansen in the St. Petersburg Open. She began to have doubts about her comeback. 10 months after her operation, she still tired easily. People were beginning to ask each other whether I'd ever be capable of winning tournaments again, she wrote, and I was asking myself the same thing. Then she hit her stride. She captured the Serbian Women's Open in February and went on to win 4 more major tournaments in 1954, including the U.S. Women's Open at the Salem Country Golf Club in Peabody, Massachusetts, the biggest title in women's golf. Her spectacular win at Peabody entered the record books as a performance of legendary proportions. A gallery of several thousand spectators watched her shoot 72, 71, 73, and 75 in the 4 rounds of the tournament, finishing an amazing 12 strokes ahead of her nearest rival, Betty Hicks. Babe had captured the Women's Open twice before, in 1948 and 1950, but this victory was especially sweet. Immediately after the match, she phoned her surgeon, Dr. Robert Moore, from the golf course to thank him for all he had done. "You did it yourself, Babe," he replied. "It was your faith, Babe, and your courage." Babe Didrikson-Zacharias was voted the Outstanding Woman Athlete of 1954 by the Associated Press, the 6th time she had won the award. She was, and remains, the only person to receive that honor so many times. However, no award meant as much to her as her triumphant return to the professional links. A cancer victim with a reconstructed anatomy, she had come back a winner following an operation that left many colostomy patients as semi-invalids. Medical experts and sports writers had predicted the end of her career. Never again, they had said. Babe had proven them wrong. She was invited to the White House that year to meet President Dwight D. Eisenhower and help launch the American Cancer Society annual fundraising drive. The president was a dedicated golfer himself. When they were introduced, he shook her hand warmly and said, "How do you do, Mrs. Zacharias?" Then he lowered his head and pretended to whisper, "I'll see you later, Babe. I want to talk to you about this game of golf." They did talk golf after the photo session in a ceremony in which Babe received the Cancer Society's symbolic Sword of Hope. She started the 1955 season in good form, winning the Tampa Women's Open and the Serbian Diamond Golf Ball Tournament, but then her energy began to flag again. The doctor suggested a vacation that spring during a fishing trip with Betty and Betty's sister Peggy on Padre Island on the Gulf of Mexico. Babe woke up one morning with a terrific pain that grew steadily worse. "Now that I look back," Betty remembered, "this was the beginning of the end. The cancer had returned, but it took months to find it." At first the pain came and went. Babe continued to play golf to lend her active support to countless cancer fundraising efforts. In an era when cancer was often spoken of in whispers, she was one of the first celebrities with the courage to publicize her condition. By doing so, she became an example of hope to millions of others. "Every time I get out and play well in a golf tournament, it seems to buck up people with the same trouble I had," she wrote. She went out to Seattle to open a Babe Didrikson-Zacharias chapter of the American Cancer Society. Later, Babe and George announced the formation of the Babe Didrikson-Zacharias Cancer Fund, and she made many personal appearances in radio and television spots for cancer fund drives. Whenever she played in a tournament, she would visit cancer patients in the area and try to raise their spirits. Often, Babe and Betty would tour hospital cancer wards together, playing the harmonica and guitar and chatting with patients, offering words of encouragement from Babe's own experience. In these visits, Babe served as a model to others and forgot for the moment her own uncertain future. After her fishing trip to Padre Island, she entered 3 more tournaments, winning one of them, although her game was slowed now and she was often in pain. Finally, after many tests, x-rays, and exams, the doctors found what Babe had feared for a long time: a new cancer in her lower spine. "A radiologist spotted it," said Betty. "In some ways, I wonder if the doctors had kept missing it because they just didn't want to see it. Anyway, it was now just a matter of making her comfortable. There was no way to operate on it." George held a press conference at the hospital and told reporters that Babe took the bad news like the mighty champion she has always been. "She's not giving up. She never flinched when told she had another cancer." That summer, back home in Tampa, Babe began to work on her autobiography with the help of a tape recorder and a professional writer. There were times when she felt strong enough to get out on the golf course again, though her drives were weak and she tired easily. Then the pain would return like a missile in the night, sending her back to bed in agony. In October, Babe's good friend and golfing rival, Peggy Kirk Bell, came to Tampa for a visit. She was in great pain, Peggy recalled, but she knew how much I loved to play golf. That gal got out of bed and insisted we play. She couldn't get her golf shoes on, they hurt too much, so she played in loafers. That was Babe's last round of golf. From then on, she was in and out of the hospital, with Betty constantly at her side. I had such admiration for this fabulous person, Betty said later. I never wanted to be away from her, even when she was dying of cancer. I loved her. I would have done anything for her. In December, Babe left the hospital long enough to spend the Christmas holidays with Bertha and R.L. Bowen. The day after Christmas, she asked to be driven to a nearby golf course. When they arrived, she got out of the car. She had on her pajamas and bathrobe. Bertha helped her walk over to the 18th green. Babe stood there, uncertainly, then knelt down and rubbed her hand across the surface of the grass. I just wanted to see a golf course one more time, she said. She was failing now, but slowly. It took months for the spreading cancer to destroy her magnificent athlete's physique. By March 1956, she was in so much pain that she was ready to go back to John Seeley Hospital in Galveston, said Betty. That was it. She never left the hospital. The tournament season was in full swing. Babe urged Betty to keep up her own golf career and get back into competition. Go, honey, and play, she told Betty. Lily will take care of me. Babe asked her sister to come down to Galveston and stay with her. Lily rented an apartment near the hospital, but she spent most nights in Babe's room. Babe, she knew she was going to die, Lily recalled. She was all over that hospital when she could still walk. She would go visit the kids in the wards and fool with them and make them laugh with her card tricks and things. Then she would say to me, don't go see them, Lily. The kids with cancer are so pitiful. They are there without eyes and without mouths. Oh, it's not so bad for me, Lily. My cancer don't show. It's on the inside. But the children, some of them, oh, Lily, they are such pitiful things. Babe lingered through the summer. From her hospital bed, she could see sunlight glistening on the blue waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Lily held her hand, just as she had held Babe's hand when they had jumped as daredevils from moving freight trains in Beaumont so long before. George held tearful press conferences for reporters who gathered at the hospital as the end neared. At times, he broke down in sobs and had to leave the press room. Betty was off on tour playing golf. That's the way Babe wanted it. One afternoon after a tournament in Detroit, players and spectators alike remained at the 18th green and gathered around Betty as she began to play her guitar and sing. Someone suggested that people might want to throw their loose change onto the green for the Babe Didrikson Saharias Cancer Fund. About $5,000 was contributed in Babe's honor that afternoon. Babe died in Galveston on the morning of September 27, 1956. She was 45 years old. I guess she never gave up, Bertha Bowen said. She kept her golf clubs in the room right till the end. The New York Times reported her death on the front page, recounting the story of her life, her accomplishments, and her courageous 3-year battle against cancer. She didn't know the meaning of the word quit, and she refused to define it right till the end, said the Times. It is not only the annals of sport that her life has enriched, it is the whole story of human beings who somehow have kept on trying. George, I hate to die, she had whispered toward the end. Then she added, I'm just learning to play golf. Even on her deathbed, Babe's sense of humor and her passion for sport still shone through, and that's how her friends remembered her. Sometimes I find myself leaning back in a chair thinking about Babe, said Patty Burge. And I have to smile. With Babe, there was never a dull moment. Her tremendous enthusiasm for golf and life was contagious. Even the galleries felt good when Babe was around.